Welcome to Cannabis News interviews of leadership in the cannabis industry in Florida. Today joining us is Oswaldo Graziani. I might have got that correct. Goes by Oz. Oz, welcome to Cannabis News interviews.
Thank you, Charles.
Can you tell us about your position and the company you work for?
Well, great. We'd love to talk about that for sure. I'm the marketing and creative director at Fluent Cannabis. So Fluent is an MSO. It's based here in Miami, Florida. We have 27 dispensaries in Florida, where we also have operations in Pennsylvania, where we have 3 dispensaries, and we're about to open a 3rd one. And we also have a growth and operations in Michigan and in Texas. So we're considered an MSO for sure, but our heavy focus right now is on Florida. That's where we are based, and we have most of our business right now.
Yeah, so, absolutely. And you're I think the 6th largest MMTC in the state of Florida, if I'm not correct.
Yes, 6th largest based by the amount of dispensaries. But of course, there's other variables like amount of products sold and stuff like that. But we're definitely there.
Right. That's great. That's great. So tell us about your family. A little bit about your family.
Good. That's a great question. I was born and raised in Caracas, Venezuela. I actually moved to the U.S. Definitely in 2014. So my family is from there. My parents live in Caracas as of now. Things have changed there a lot. There's definitely a very tough situation. But definitely, I've been working for U.S. companies, and my career has been always, before cannabis, related to somehow to the U.S. Working at television and digital, that's always the place to go when you want to get your business going. So my relationship with the U.S. has been long before I moved here in 2014.
That's great. So going back to the career and kind of educational background, Oz, what path did you take through an educational background?
Well, my education is communications. I majored in communications in the Universidad Católica Andrés Bello in Caracas, Venezuela, a very prestigious school there. And I major in communications, and then you have to do your specialization I did it on marketing and advertising. But you know how careers are. As soon as I got out of college, I got this amazing job opportunity at Sony Pictures. So my career moved a little bit towards content creation, on-air, branding, and all the things related more to television at that moment. This was around 2004. And that's where my career started, or took off. Working at Sony Pictures, this is basically cable networks in Latin America. So I was doing all the creative and all the marketing for the on-air channels there. And that basically led to me getting involved in content production, and eventually creating my own company that I still own and is still operating, of content creation for both digital and OTT and television outlets. So that was my passion. It still is somehow. But in 2017, I believe, I actually working in that company, I got commissioned to work in a documentary about the cannabis industry in Florida. I was doing a pilot for a TV network where they were wanting to do kind of reality docuseries about the cannabis industry. And the company that they decided to follow to create this story was called Knox Medical. Probably you remember that.
Yep.
So I met the owners, met everybody there, and start doing, a long process. Documentaries take a long time of interviews and getting to know everybody and getting to know what you do and finding the conflicts and the things that are interesting from a content creation standpoint, right? And that's how I met everybody at that company. It took me 6 months to produce the pilot. And that took, that was enough time to establish all these amazing relationships. And also understanding the amazing potential of this industry. I fell in love very easy. You know, I was watching all this. I was like, I cannot believe this is happening in Florida. And it doesn't seem too far away, 2017, but in cannabis years, you know, it's been a lot has happened since then. So, you know, to keep the story short, one thing led to another. I got the CEO at that moment, loving what I was doing on the content side. And he was, hey, we need somebody on the marketing team. We're building this company. We need somebody to found the thing. I said no at the beginning. I remember clearly. It was like, no, I want to keep on my lane. But, you know, he was very, you know, a good salesman, that for sure. And he got me to join Fluent Cannabis in early 2018. And I've been here, well, was Knox Medical, sorry. And then part of my first job in the company was the full rebrand of the company to Fluent Cannabis. So that's how Knox and Fluent connect, because that's basically the same company that just decided to change the name and the brand. So that's how I started here. I'm actually going to be here, going to be turning 4 years in this company in March. And as I told you, 4 years in any other industry might be like a short career. Here in cannabis, it feels like 20 years, to be honest.
Feels like a lifetime, absolutely.
Yeah,
the last
absolutely.
5 years in cannabis has felt like a lifetime, no question.
Absolutely, yes. In many good ways, you know, in how fast has evolved, all the things that we got now in our plate, like flour, you know, like all edibles, all the things that when I started here were not even part of a question. So you can see how the industry and the state is evolving pretty fast, and it's extremely exciting to look at the future.
What was some of the, I guess, two-part question. What were some of the challenges relating to your career coming into the industry, coming into the cannabis industry? And what was some of the challenges you run into in product, I guess not necessarily product development, but product launching? Yeah, especially during the last couple of years.
It is a great question, because I think it speaks a little bit of, you have to be mentally prepared to think everything from scratch when you come to this industry. You know, one thing that I noticed right away, you know, coming from television and doing all the things where I was allowed to do all the marketing I wanted to, that a lot of the things that I was able to do then, I wasn't able to do now. So a lot of people struggle to try to fit their kind of old school methods on the cannabis industry, and that's a big failure. It always ends up wrong. I think the approach has to be more humbleness and kind of, okay, let me think this from scratch, because selling pre-roll, selling a cart, selling any type of cannabis product, it's a completely different art from selling a piece of content or a soda or any other type of product. So the first challenge for me was understanding that I need to kind of think from scratch, everything, social media, email, like one good example is email. You know, email in any other industry is a old method. It's something that they're not using that much. It is actually losing steam. But in cannabis, it is gold. It is something that has a lot of value for us. So being able to understand that and leave your egos behind and say like, hey, let me bring back email on my, you know, ecosystem of strategies, because I think this is going to work, is definitely the way to approach this, you know? So I think it's all about mindset when people come in. And I see it all the time in all the levels, from C-suite level to entry level. People that succeed are people that come in asking questions, don't being afraid of not knowing stuff, and being ready to learn, you know?
Do you think, and I'm glad you brought up coming in from other industries, which means you can bring in some good ideas from the industry, but it is a totally separate mindset. Yep. What do you think, and again, this is just top of my head, thinking out loud. At the original onset of this, a lot of people thought that it would be great to bring in people that used to deal in the pharmaceutical industry, okay? Yeah. and I may be wrong, but I think that didn't work too well. It really didn't. I mean, I thought the first few people coming in were basically pharmaceutical reps that had basically, since a change in the business took place, but found that it really wasn't that. It was really people who had to embrace the cannabis, I guess, and I call it maybe cannabis way of life or cannabis medicine. And I mean, that must have changed, I think, like within a year, when companies started getting pharmaceutical reps and saying, no, we got to throw these people out because they're not the people we need. Is that, did you see that same thing happening?
100%. You're absolutely right. And I think it speaks a little bit. I was talking a little bit earlier about the decision why we decided to change from Knox Medical to Fluent. That's a perfect example of understanding that. So I'll put you that example. When I jump into this company, and I started taking a look at the brand and our reps and everybody's like, okay, this is a pharma company, you know, this is almost like selling medicine, which is that's technically true. Right. And I completely understand that approach because we were getting into a market like Florida where nobody knew how the regulations were going to work. And it is strictly medical. So everybody kind of fall in line, and not everybody, but they decided to, okay, let's kind of build our brands around being 100% medical. So the problem with that, as you mentioned, is that you might be listening and reading all the regulatory aspects of the industry, but you're not reading the culture. You're not reading where this is actually going in sometime in the future. So in our case, it's a good, interesting story. We started to notice that with Knox Medical because I was telling the team, like, hey, all our pictures is doctors with gowns and all white, and it feels like I'm going to the doctor. It feels like I need to be sick somehow to be able to get this product. And I think we need to build a brand that it caters to that for sure, but it's a little bit more prepared for the future, for what's coming next. So that's when I remember flying to Seattle and seeing the market there. And we were like, okay, let's go to medical dispensaries. And they were like, they're out. Everything is wrecked now. And we found that actually troubling. We were like, well, but patients are not cured. You know, when rec comes, it doesn't mean that people get completely well with cannabis. Patients are still going to be there, but they're not going to be able to find a place that speaks to them. So we decided based on that, look, let's build a brand and a company and a dispensary that can speak to everybody, you know, anybody with a very deep and strong condition. We are popular in the Florida market for being able to cater to those patients, but also understanding that down the line, things are going to change and the market is going to open. So I think that's been clear on how as you mentioned, how we have changed the way to approach physicians, the way we communicate our message is understanding that this is a constant and evolving industry, that if you just settle in, okay, this is the medical market in 2017, and you believe that's going to be the case forever, you're just going to lose steam and probably disappear.
No, I think the idea of being medical is important and keeping that medical, I guess, method here, but yeah, keeping your eye down the road, because eventually you will have adult or recreational in the state. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in Florida. I'm not sure if Florida is going to wind up following everything that's going on in California, in Washington. I think it's going to be, you'll have it, but I think it'll be a split difference.
Yeah, you can tell even the way they started. I think Florida, you know, a lot of people criticize vertically integrated approach and all that stuff, but I think Florida did a pretty good job on establishing a solid industry. Then we can talk about how this is going to evolve and hey, if they're going to break it up or not, and how rec is going to come and play. I see a bright future on that. I see the market there and a lot of things very interesting. But you mentioned something that for us is key. That is, like, we will fail if we forget about the medical patients, because, you know, they, as I told you, recreational or adult use, it's not going to change the fact that they're still going to need our product. So if for example, we're not going to do that. As soon as rec comes, change our whole dispensaries to put like, music and make it all fun. And, I think that's gonna not necessarily play well. So we need to be able to have a place that hosts everybody that is allowed to consume our products.
Right.
And we see it all the time. We get a lot of patients saying that, like, yeah, we love you guys because you can take your time for whoever needs it, and we know some patients are ready they know exactly what they want. They don't want even to interact with you. We have express pickup and all the things for you if you just want to get in and out. But if you want to ask questions and spend half an hour with one of our curators, you can easily do that, and we were all happy to cater and answer your questions.
Yeah.
So that's important.
So what does, as the marketing and development person for Fluent, as I like to say, whenever I have to look you up, I have to look like Get Fluent as opposed to Fluent. So Get Fluent is the way I always think about you guys. What does your typical day look like in your position at Fluent?
Well, it's very dynamic for sure. And one thing that we decided to do during COVID that we can talk about that later is that was kind of a method that we decided to apply that's been extremely successful, is that we tackle every day by day. We have our daily battles with sales and decision making of what we're going to do the next day, because my day is basically taking a look at inventory. How much product do we really have? Taking a look of our numbers and if we're close to hitting the goals, not close to hitting the goals, and understanding where we are standing in our trajectory, and then creating marketing and sales tactics to keep that fight going, and keep that competition, active. So that's what we do usually, is sit down every morning, take a look at our inventory, and then I brief my team in conjunction with the sales team, what are the things we want to do for tomorrow, especially, but then every time we have chance, project the week and the month so we can know exactly what's coming in. A lot of our work goes on retention, like a lot of it has to do with how to keep the customers that already came in at least one time coming back. So it's all about dealing with email blasts, social media, text messages, and a very solid and easy to navigate website. That ecosystem basically builds what we need to bring people in. And it's so, I was mentioning before, it's so clear for us how effective are this kind of engagement methods that is direct to consumers, like text messaging and emails. You can tell, like, every time we have something good to say, either a sale or a product, we send that text or we send that email, and we see the numbers responding half an hour to an hour later. So it's definitely a very, in an industry where people are waiting what's new, what is the potency of your new, batch or whatever, we definitely understand that keeping them aware of the new things that are coming to the stores is key for our success. So we take a lot of our time of every day to keep that in motion, because we don't close any day of the year, maybe Thanksgiving and Christmas Day, and that's it. Every other day, we're grinding it at the dispensaries.
So there was something interesting which has just happened through the OMMU.
Oh yeah.
And they now have the rolling 35-day, which I don't think they're going to pull back. A lot of people are protesting it, but I think it's written in the law that way, and I think it's going to happen.
It is.
I have a group that I deal with, medical marijuana doctors group.
Yeah.
And we meet every other Wednesday, and we talked about this. And I guess one of the issues being, it hurts the patient from the standpoint of being able to take advantage of different sales that you would put on, maybe 30% off, 40% off, buy one, get one, whatever that may be. Since it's rolling, you're really only going to have at any one point in time 2.5 ounces of flour.
Yes.
And again, this is short notice, just thoughts on how it becomes, does marketing now become more of an individual marketing effort rather than a global marketing effort? Just thoughts.
Yeah, interesting. Well, just to clarify on that, they tried to do this a couple of months ago, and they
Oh, I
had
know,
to
yeah.
backtrack.
Yeah.
People weren't prepared at all. Nobody knew how to handle it, and they
Right.
literally, it took like one day for them to decide this is not working, and they let us know it didn't work out, but we're gonna do it. So then now they gave us this time until March 1st to
Right.
prepare. So at least they gave us that now, and we actually
Right.
have worked this week and last week a lot.
Yeah,
to
that was their
educate
mistake. The mistake last time was they just turned it on and nobody knew it. You know,
Exactly.
this time they give you some notice to plan. So they're a little bit ahead of the game.
Yeah, so the thing we did was, first of all, try to understand where they're coming from. You know, understand what's their, why they want to do this. And, you know, it's difficult to get them to be clear, but from our perspective, what they want to do is avoid people from buying using the loophole, let's call it loophole, and being able to buy 5 ounces of weed. You know, to clarify, whoever doesn't know, the maximum amount of flour that you can get is 2.5 ounces every 35 days. That's the maximum amount the state of Florida allows you to get. Okay.
Right.
So now, before March 1st, it's 35 days, and then it renews every day. So what happens is that if by that method, you can actually buy 5 ounces of flour in 2 days if you time it right. You go the last day, buy 2.5 ounces, and then go the first day of the next round and buy 2.5 ounces. So they want to avoid that. I don't know necessarily why, but that happens. And of course, I'm putting like the extreme case, but that can be 4 ounces or 3.5 or whatever. So what they want to do right now is that keep it as a rolling average, so you're not able to do that. That the maximum you can get, for example, if I go today and I buy, well, not today. Today's still the old method, but if I go March 1st and I get 2.5 ounces, I'm not going to be able to get it until 35 days. So that's the change. The biggest problem we notice, because honestly, when you check the data, not many people are doing that. Not many people are waiting for the last day to get 5
Oh, sure.
ounces.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
It's not like most of the people actually won't even notice this change. But the fact that they're making this change, and the fact that it's not easy to know how many ounces of flour, there's no app. You can go to the website and stuff, but it takes some time, and most people are not checking that every time they go to the dispensary. So the challenge for us is educating people to prepare for that. So we created like a formula. We send them an email. We got some good feedback of people finally trying to understand. And I'm sure that first month we're going to get a lot of people not being happy, because they're probably going to buy, I don't know, 1.5 ounces of cannabis or flour, and they're going to know, oh no, I only can buy half of it, or you're not going to be able to have at all. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have 35 days of crazy friction, and then it will hopefully work out, and people will understand it. But yeah, there's one of those things, that the educational aspect. I remember being with my team, like trying to get to comprehend the best way to explain it, and it's not easy. It's a very difficult thing for people to understand.
It's difficult, and the doctors were saying, from a standpoint of, if the MMTCs are running a sale, where normally you may wait for that sale to come, or depending on the type of income, again, you're on disability pay or something, and a lot of users use disability. The timing of being able to buy on sale and having money may not coincide with your 35 days. And that's where, and that affects a good number of patients, not a lot, because I don't think a lot of patients even use 2.5 ounces in 35 days, but it does affect those, may say 5% or 10% of patients on pricing. And the doctors were wondering, and it's a good opportunity to speak, is there any way to almost take a look at the database and have a sales for individuals based on their renewal versus based on like a big weekend? Because that big weekend, they may be closed out.
Yeah, I think that is down the road in the future. And it has to do a lot with having the technology to be able to be that precise. So at the end of it, we rely in our case on BioTrack, that is our POS system. It's not necessarily like state of the art, so you have to kind of depend on that a little bit to do all your e-commerce and all your targeted communications. So we're getting better at that with emails. Texting is already based on your preferred location. So I think the future of marketing for cannabis is going to be a lot of targeted emails and any type of communication based on your preference and your historic purchases. I think that's
you can get that information off of when you pull up a person, you see it right there what they get. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting in the next 60, 75 days, the marketing and the effect on individuals.
And I'm interested to see how people are gonna react to this, and if that's gonna translate into DOH making some amendments or some upgrades to the rule, maybe adding a little bit more ounces so it can.
Well, the doctors can request up to 4 ounces on a special request. So you may see more special requests going in up to 4 ounces within that 35 days. But it has to be a special request has to be made. And unfortunately, the OMMU has not put out the form yet, but it's been there since the very beginning. So crazy stuff.
It is.
So kind of, I don't take up too much more of your time, but tell me a little bit about people who have influenced your career, especially in the cannabis space. So when people are looking at this, and maybe some are looking to get your secrets, or really most of them will be looking at it as, well, if I want to get a career in the cannabis industry, what do I need to know? Who are the mentors in the industry? Who do I pay attention to? Who do I follow? What do I do?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of what I'm doing, not everybody, but a lot of the people that come to this industry are coming from other places. For example, right now, our director of sales is called Victor Bindi. He's a veteran. He flew airplanes in Iraq and Afghanistan and stuff like that. And he's coming from such a different background, but all the knowledge that he's bringing in from there that we're applying to cannabis is extremely amazing. So I see him as he's been in the company for 6 months, and I've been like learning from him, even from things related to cannabis that I couldn't imagine before, just because he's bringing all this kind of set of knowledge, Same thing with where I come from. I come from the television industry and the content creation side. So that affects a lot my way of seeing cannabis branding. One of the things I was really not excited about in this industry to begin with, that I thought that branding of cannabis was really bad, to be honest. It was very based on culture and stoner culture or extremely medical. And it wasn't really, I wasn't seeing any brand trying to speak to the mainstream, to break the cannabis kind of identity. And that's what we did with Fluent, to be honest. It was very on purpose, create a brand that was beyond the kind of the cannabis identity. So I'm inspired with a lot of designers and people outside the industry that actually frame a little bit my way of seeing and how to apply that in the industry, and in the industry, I'm starting to see that now. Like, for example, there's a company from this hip hop artist called JC that is called Monogram. And I saw the brand. It's like, finally, some companies doing really cool branding in the industry. Of course, they're a recreational brand in New York and California, but it definitely tells me, like, you're starting to see this heavy influence of talented people from elsewhere coming into the cannabis. And last but not least, I will say I've been extremely inspired and by our growers, the people that are literally growing our plants. That, by the way, before I forget, you mentioned something about pharma at the beginning, like the question about pharma. One of the biggest things that we changed for the better, the beginning for Knox Medical, we were literally hiring people that knew how to grow tomatoes or flowers. Like we didn't really understood that growing cannabis was an art, you know, and with our new CEO, Robert Beasley, and coming in with that understanding, he brought that in, and he brought, you know, like let's get real growers, let's get artists, not, you know, people that know how to grow a plant. And that's where we partnered with Freedom Town, the team, the growers behind Sweetwater, and I've been learning from them, not necessarily to grow. I'm not a grower, I'm expecting to be that, but how passion for doing something actually translates into quality and success. It's not only technique, of course, all that it's needed, but it's beyond that. So I'm like using a little bit the analogy that it's almost like in the music industry, the record labels and all that industry, the growers are like the musicians, you know, like we need to deal with people that are artists, and then we need to understand and support them and what they need, in our case, to make great product, you know, and it has paid off extremely well with the Sweetwater brand. Like people are loving it.
Right. So what would you, for somebody wanting, again, get into the industry again, what piece of advice would you give them? Obviously, everyone's not going to have the opportunity that you had to be able to do that. But what would you say as a starting point for somebody who was serious about getting into it? You know, graduates college, maybe didn't graduate college, or wants to get into the industry. What would be couple of things that you would suggest that they do?
Well, one thing that I think is right off very easy, a low-hanging fruit for anybody who wants to get in the industry. It is very difficult to find resumes with some type of cannabis experience. So every time I see people that did like a cannabis workshop or a cannabis course to understand the industry, all these little things that you can do on a weekend really add up for our interest on getting you on an office to have an interview, or a Zoom interview in this case. So I think that adding little things that can show that you know about the industry and you're not coming just for the paycheck is really important, because we see that a lot. The other thing that is important is that for some reason, you know, I think the cannabis industry as a whole is extremely attractive. You know, like people want to come in and it looks like the next big thing, and it is. But a lot of people come in thinking that they're going to make money really fast, or that it's an easy thing to do. And none of those apply. It's actually a really hard work, you know, like it looks really cool from the outside, but we grind it. You know, we are working really hard every day, including the weekends, to make this company thrive. And I think sometimes we see a lot of people that just want to jump into the cannabis industry because it's cool. And it's like that by itself is not going to make it, you know? And the last thing that I mentioned before is be prepared to start from zero. Like you're going to bring a lot of things and a lot of experience from other industries, but you're also going to find that a lot of those things or a lot of those superpowers are not going to apply, or at least just yet, in this industry. So whoever just tries to fit in their skill set, their previous skill set in the industry, doesn't really work. They need to evolve that skill set and adapt those skill sets to whatever we need on this industry. So I think that by itself is important. I will repeat the first one. Any type of hint of you being interested in cannabis is really important for us to see, because it shows not only that you love. A lot of people say, I love cannabis, I smoke it every day. It's like, well, that doesn't necessarily fits what we're looking for.
It's the same thing as well. You know, I want to become a beer distributor because I drink beer every day. So
exactly,
it's not the same. It's not the same.
Yes.
But no, it is good to know the product, to learn the product. And one of the things you have to do at the very beginning, is opposed to talking, just listening. Listen and learn in the industry.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up, Tell me, it's been a really crazy couple of years, especially when dispensaries had to be closed. You had curbside, you had delivery. People, I mean, just really in the last 6 months or less, really coming back inside. So
Yeah.
it's been a challenge for the industry. During that period of time, the marketing part of it, what worries you at night? You work the 16 hours a day, you come back and you say, well, okay, everything's done, but so
Yeah.
what is that but at the end of the day?
Well, one of it is just keeping your teams motivated and engaged. I think that's something that I'm very obsessed with, having a team that feels like it's winning every day. And sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes there are days that things don't go good, or we need to run the extra mile to make it a good day. So having the ability to keep in a very fast moving, intense paced environment, a team that is extremely motivated, is tough. And I think I've been very successful in doing that, applying many things. I take care of marketing that has a lot of fun components and creative components, but a lot of sales components as well. So if we don't do our job, sales don't come in. So it's definitely that, me being able to just hit those marks and do what I need to do to make everybody happy, including my boss, is definitely something that keeps me sometimes woke up at night, for sure. And going back to the COVID thing, because COVID has been an incredible experience, but not necessarily in a good way,
Right.
of course. But for us, especially the first in 2020, it definitely was a very changing experience, in the sense that a lot of things work in our favor as a company. One of the things I always mention, I'm extremely obsessed with e-commerce and digital marketing, because that's what everybody's doing now. It shouldn't be something that on the industry. It's happening everywhere. So now you're used to ordering anything on your phone and getting it in your house the same day. So cannabis is a little bit more complicated because it's heavily regulated, but I was obsessed on having an excellent performing online platform. And I was really happy because I was comparing to other companies, and we were like bringing 20% of our revenue were starting on a mobile phone. So I was really happy with that stat, but I knew we could do better. And we wanted to train more people to transition from walking into the dispensary to ordering online. And then COVID came. And I know this is going to sound a little bit cynical, but that was the best marketing campaign we could have for people to transition to online ordering. Right. So we created incentives. We did some discounts for people to not only do it because of health reasons. That should be the only reason for you to do it. But a lot of people want to do it also because, economic reasons. Right. So we put incentives on online sales. And I took revenue from online sales from 20% in April to 70% in May. And I'm sorry, in February to 70% in May. So in the span of 3 months, we turned that around. Sales were through the roof. And we saw a lot of other companies not being able to do that because they weren't prepared to begin with. So they had to scramble and get all the things going while we were basically ready and waiting for the spike, So I think in that sense, COVID taught us a lot of things that were really good for us to get better at. On the other hand, the biggest challenge is dealing, with employees and customers that are concerned about their health, I want to not even mention the state, because Florida is particular, but a whole country where this issue got politicized immediately, So navigating that in a state that is, as fairly mixed on politics, that was a big challenge, because at the end of it, we wanted to protect our employees for sure, but also a lot of our patients that have underlying conditions. Correct. And stuff that we wanted to make sure that we were a safe environment for them. So it took a lot. I always mention Natalia Velasco, our our chief people officer, HR. She did an amazing job to keep, all the things in place, to have the teams necessary to serve while all this pandemic was going on. It was a really heavy challenge, but I think it helped us a lot to work better as a team.
Sure, sure. Well, again, I want to thank you. And one last question. I thought that was the last, but then I thought, so what we're in 2022. What does Fluent look like in 2022? Where are you going? What are the non-secret plans, as one might say? So
no, absolutely. Yeah, I have a lot of things to say. First of all, 2022 started for us amazing. We had actually, and this is actually impressive, our best month ever was January, which is usually not the best month in the calendar year for cannabis, because your months are probably December and November and April because of 420. So having record numbers on January is an excellent sign of what's coming on Fluent. We have been able to expand our cultivations and to ramp up production. So right now, if you go to Fluent, you're going to be able to see multiple strains of flower, multiple brands of cards, and that's just going to keep growing and growing. We're about to launch. They're already in the stores, so your audience can know that. But we're going to fully launch our disposable cartridges in a month. That's kind of our new product that we're happy to get into the market. And then we're coming with concentrates later on, and another couple of surprises on the edible side. So we're extremely excited of all the new products we're going to launch, and just the ability to increase our production to satisfy the crazy demand we're getting. So it's looking really well. In Florida, Pennsylvania, we're about to open our third dispensary there. So that's also really exciting. So it's definitely a very active year where we're not only expecting to keep selling more cannabis, but open more stores. Also, 6 stores are on the way in Florida. So that's definitely things that we are excited to announce when the time is right.
Great. Oz, I appreciate it, and wish you a great weekend at the, I guess it's Cannadelic. Cannadelic. Can never get that name right. But Pete and Colleen do a great job putting on the event, and have a great time at the show. And we'll catch you at one of the many shows coming up, I guess in the next 3 or 4 months. There's lots of shows coming on. So
absolutely, yes, we'll be there. Cannadelic, excited to be there, participate, and see how it goes.
Great. Thank you much. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you for everything, Charles. Nice talking to you.
Take care. And this is Charles Felix with Cannabis News Florida. Until the next time.